When Cold War Zombies announced that it was going to have a gunsmith similar to Modern Warfare 2019, I was over the moon. The possibility of unlocking dozens of attachments and building my weapon in a way that is catered specifically to my playstyle was tantalizing. Unfortunately, what we got instead was a shallow, bare minimum implementation that left me wanting so much more. So why do I feel this way? I believe the gunsmith within Zombies misses the mark when it comes to what made Modern Warfare's gunsmith so engaging and successful. The key to Modern Warfare's gunsmith was providing players with a large variety of meaningful, impactful, and game-changing attachments that could be specifically dialed in for each player based on their personal playstyle. The reason for that is found within the pros and cons of each attachment. In Modern Warfare, the attachments alter player stats that are relevant to the multiplayer meta. Aim down sights time, bullet velocity, recoil control, aim movement speed, sprint to fire time, and so much more. With these attachments, players could craft a large variety of different builds for the same weapon that all perform uniquely while maintaining their pros and cons. Whether they are building the fastest ADS weapon, the weapon with the least amount of recoil, the most damage, the most range, the best hipfire, or somewhere in between them all. Building a weapon in Modern Warfare felt like you were designing it for your particular playstyle. This is not even remotely the case in Cold War Zombies. The gunsmith of Zombies fails to replicate the success of Modern Warfare's in two distinct ways. One, the attachments are just barely relevant to the gameplay of Zombies, which leads to problem number two: the pros and cons provided do not engage players based on their individual playstyle. Let's get specific. Take a look at the precise pros and cons of each attachment in Zombies. As you can see, some things have a strong impact on gameplay, such as damage, armor damage, hipfire spread, and salvage drop rate. But that's where things stop being relevant. Looking over the other pros and cons, it's technically possible to make a case as to why things like aim movement speed, recoil control, and damage range are somewhat beneficial, but by no means are they game-altering or all that impactful on the moment-to-moment gameplay. Due to the nature of Zombies, many of these statistics are simply not as important to the success of the player. Slow ADS speed? Just hipfire. Slow movement speed? Buy stamina up and just hipfire. Bad hipfire or bad recoil? Just buy more ammo at the nearest ammo cache. Low ammo capacity? Just buy more ammo at the nearest ammo cache. While I could see an argument that a lot of these pros and cons increase the ease of use of these weapons, there's absolutely no debate when it comes to things like the ability to drop shot and reveal distance. Why in the world are those even in Zombies? Who's drop shotting Zombies? The fact is, a large percent of attachments have little to no relevancy on the gameplay of Zombies. As a result of this lackluster pool of pros and cons, zombie players find themselves with a limited number of unique weapon configurations to experiment with. Not only that, but this leads to players finding one specific set of attachments that arguably are objectively the best, which completely goes against the very concept behind the gunsmith in the first place. Thankfully, the solution to this problem is relatively simple to comprehend. Simply make the pros and cons more relevant to the gameplay of Zombies. And that leads us to my favorite part of these videos, my crazy ideas. I have several ideas for attachment pros and cons that I would be delighted to see in a future implementation of the gunsmith. Vanguard. Let's start tame. Damage, armor damage, and salvage drop rate are some of the most relevant attachments in the game currently, but unfortunately they are all limited to one, maybe two attachments at most. I would love to see an increased number of attachments that use these aspects as their pros and cons. When Cold War Zombies was released, there was a fairly heavy amount of negative feedback regarding the new point system, so having a set of attachments that increase the points players earned per elimination would be perfect. Additionally, one of the biggest criticisms I have with Cold War is the amount of XP and weapon XP players receive. Having a set of attachments that increase the amount of XP players received would be yet another interesting choice to provide players with when building their class. Next, a set of attachments that increased bullet penetration would help alleviate the absolutely abysmal penetration power of weapons that are currently in the game, especially sniper rifles. I know some attachments affect a weapon's rate of fire, but I think we could easily justify a few more, especially with the confirmation that double tap isn't going to be returning in Cold War. Introducing attachments that increase the headshot damage multiplier could provide players with more flexibility and specificity in building their weapons. As an added crazy idea, reintroducing the head scan elixir from Black Ops 4, which would cause headshots to randomly insta-kill enemies, as an attachment would be a fun modifier. though I'm sure it would need the proper trade-off to justify its power. In the same vein of additional damage, having attachments change the damage dealt to boss zombies would be yet another specific way for players to increase their lethality. I know many players find Disciples difficult, and I personally find Manglers annoying, so having weapon attachments help alleviate that nuisance would be greatly beneficial. Something that Treyarch has done in the past that I think could easily be implemented is an increase in power-up drop frequency and the removal of the power-up drop limit per round. Power Vacuum was a gobblegum back in Black Ops 3 that was incredibly powerful to the point of ridiculousness. Naturally, I don't think that level of power is necessary. But much like the current increase equipment drop rate attachment, having an attachment that allows for more frequent power-up drops and more than the standard 4 power-ups per round would be another level of depth players could utilize. Small addition here, but I think it would be cool to have the phantom reload effect from Black Ops 4 be tied to an attachment. Moving on, similar to the current Speed Cola ability, having attachments that decrease the field upgrade recharge time would allow players to lean into their field upgrade and make the most out of their special ability. My final idea is to have attachments that increase the strength of ammo mods as well as decrease the cooldown time between ammo mod activations. This would give players who love ammo mods a stronger version of them to play around with for a price. These handful of attachments, in my opinion, are significantly more engaging and interesting for players to play around with. These ideas make meaningful and impactful differences to the player's gameplay experience, which would lead to players being compelled to test and try out their favorite builds. All of these ideas are nice and easy to throw out into the void. The difficult part is going to come when we have to start balancing the pros and cons. Lucky for you, I won't be going through each and every attachment's pros and cons. After all, I'm not a game developer. That being said, things that increase the player's damage output, like boss zombie damage, headshot damage, and ammo mod strength, might want to be balanced out by a decreased point gain, less salvage, and perhaps fewer power-up drops. On the other hand, if a player builds their weapon to have the most point gain, weapon XP gain, and salvage gain, maybe they lose out on their rate of fire and penetration power. Balancing the pros and cons is a delicate task, but I think having so many desirable characteristics makes for some interesting combinations. If balanced properly, these pro and con ideas could pave the way for players to create weapons with different focuses and catered to their own playstyle. Players who want to decimate everything with their weapons could build the weapon with the most damage possible. Players who are completing challenges could build their weapon for the most XP and power-up drop frequency. High round players might focus on boss zombie damage and ammo mod strength. And, like Modern Warfare's Gunsmith, most players would be able to find the build that suits their playstyle the best. Call of Duty Vanguard has confirmed the return of the Gunsmith for its multiplayer. This could potentially mean the return of the Gunsmith for its zombie mode. If that's the case, I hope to see Treyarch take it to the next step. Create meaningful attachments with pros and cons that significantly influence the way the weapon performs in-game. Treyarch has a great track record for constantly innovating and refining their mechanics within their zombies mode. Let's hope the Gunsmith in Vanguard Zombies is no exception. I love my ideas for rebalancing the Gunsmith. Let me know what you guys think about them in the comment section below. And if I've sparked your interest with this video, be sure to check out these videos where I redesign ammo mods and completely rebuild the Dark Aether camo grind. Be sure to subscribe, and as always, stay beautiful.